Trust and Doubt by Teresita Blanco. Chapter 1, Queen of Wands. It was a warm November afternoon in La Bodeguita Minimart. Today was Thanksgiving. The infamous sidekick Carina wasn't in a cooking mood. She was as skinny as a twig. At her age, her face was already starting to resemble a melted candy, and only her eyes retained her youthful splendor. Helping her with the shopping were her two grandchildren, Eufrasio and Lucero. The twins were wandering about the mart, filling up their cars with whatever piqued their interest. Irina eventually made it to the end of the line. Alas, they were already out of turkey. Irina called her daughter Angelica to inform her of the bad news. "I don't even like turkey," said Angelica over the phone. "And just because we live in Rome, we do not need to eat like the Romans." "I don't like turkey either," said Lucero. Instead of turkey, they bought ham and chicharrones, and it was a good thing that her daughter had finally had this moment of honesty. Irina and her words made their way to the car, and Irina frowned when she saw a woman standing beside her car, and there was something familiar about her green eyes. After rattling her memory, Irina recognized Rebecca. Rebecca was Bruno's older sister, and her brother was dating a client of Irina's named Carina. Carina pestered the psychic on an almost weekly basis, and Carina so lately would visit to complain about Rebecca. "It is Thanksgiving, Rebecca. Shouldn't you be with your brother?" asked Irina. "You are certainly quite sharp, Irina," said Rebecca, genuinely impressed. "I didn't even introduce myself, and you already knew my name and that I have a brother." "It is Thanksgiving, and I don't work," said Irina. "If I were you, I would make an exception," said Rebecca, bringing out an $100 bill. Irina saw the bill before looking at her grandchildren, and in the end, their shared poverty compelled Irina to make an exception just for Rebecca. "Let's make this quick," said Irina before stuffing all the food in the back of the car. She sat in the driver's seat while the children in the back, and Rebecca sat beside Irina. Irina brought out her deck of cards, and Rebecca shook her head to illustrate the fact that she wasn't interested in a psychic reading. She reached into her pocket to bring out a miniature recorder. "Carina is one of your regular clients. I want to listen to her conversations. You will get $100 per session," said Rebecca. "No, what you're asking for is illegal," said Eufrasio. "I am telling on you," said Lucero before pretending to call Carina. She then said, "Hello, Carina. There is this woman." "Give me that phone," bawled Rebecca, turning around, and she tried to reach for Lucero's cell phone, but the brat threw it into her dress. "Truly, do you fear little Carina so much?" asked Irina. "I don't fear her, I just don't trust her," said Rebecca. "Do you think that listening to her conversation is going to help you trust her?" asked Irina. "Here's $200. You do not need to record anything. Just tell me what she has been telling you, and it will suffice to quench my curiosity," said Rebecca, bringing out another $100 bill. Lucero took the money before saying, "Carina paid Grandma to hex you." "That's cute," said Rebecca, laughing. "Truly, she must be a child to believe in magic. And what is the nature of her hex?" "It is a reflection hex. Whatever evil you do unto Carina, it will be reflected back at you 7 times fold," said Eufrasio. "It is a powerful karmic hex," said Irina. "It is for this reason that I cannot in good faith help you spy on Carina, and the fact that I have told you this much is going to bring you a lot of bad luck." "Good day to you, woman," said Eufrasio, pointing out the door. Irina became a stone wall of silence, and it didn't matter how much Rebecca tried to coax or bribe the woman, she wasn't going to get any more answers. Rebecca returned to her car, and she gave a final cursory glance at her pastry, and when she was satisfied, she drove out to Carina's house. The party was taking place in the yard shared by the two houses. Carina lived with her mother Unla, and the larger house was owned by her Aunt Barbara and her entire brood, and it was common for all family members to seamlessly circulate between both homes. In the center of the garden, there was a wooden canopy with straw roofs and a checkerboard patterned tile floor. The canopy was decked out with paper turkeys and corn and other Thanksgiving decor, and in the center there was the dinner table filled with goodies. To protect them from the bugs, all of the goodies had coverings over them, and Rebecca left her contribution to the cause before looking for her daughters Becky and Olivia. Becky was 5 and Olivia was 7, and both daughters had the same caramel complexion as their mother and the same straight raven hair. And unlike their mother, the girls had amber eyes. They were currently in the treehouse playing with dolls with their Uncle Bruno. Bruno was a 27-year-old lawyer who had paid for his education by playing football, and he was still a handsome devil with stunning green eyes. He was currently dating the petite Rubenesque Carina, and she had raven hair, expressive hazel eyes, and honey-colored skin and curly brown hair. She had recently turned 25 years old, and Carina was busy greeting the guests, and her smile faded when she saw Rebecca coming towards her. At first, Carina fancied that Rebecca was a nice woman. Carina had grown to despise her because of the negative effect that Rebecca had on her brother. Whenever Rebecca was around, Bruno was unhappy, and this unhappiness manifested in bouts of silence or passive-aggressive remarks. And every time Carina asked Bruno about his sister, he only had bad things to say. He only bothered to pretend to get along with his sister whenever his nieces were within earshot, and the rest of the time he was openly hostile to the woman. And it was peculiar to see Rebecca trying so hard to remain close with a brother that wanted nothing to do with her. Then again, as an only child, she had no way of understanding the bond shared by siblings. The closest thing Carina had to a brother or sister were her cousins and nieces, and the cousin that was closest to her age was Rodrigo, who was the same age as Bruno. And Carina got along well with Rodrigo, but oftentimes they rarely traveled in the same social circle. After all, she was a pediatrician and Rodrigo was a lawyer, and she couldn't imagine herself chasing after Rodrigo, let alone spying on him. And as for Rodrigo, he wasn't the time to meddle in Carina's affairs. "What is a 2-year difference after all?" said Carina to herself. "And what's eating you up this time?" asked Rodrigo, who had come to the snack table in search of goodies. "I'm just trying to make sense of Bruno and Rebecca's relationship. She's so," said Carina. "Annoying," said Rodrigo. "I was going to say meddlesome," said Carina. "And does she always interfere in all of her brother's relationships? Or am I just lucky?" "Rebecca claims that her brother started giving signs of life after he started dating you," said Rodrigo. "Take this information as you will." So he must like me a lot, and you only forget to check in when you're having fun," said Carina, gushing. Carina finished her gathering snacks and she climbed up the treehouse, and the noise immediately died when Bruno's nieces became aware of her. The girls had started out polite, though now that polite indifference had devolved into open hostility. And Carina fancied that the girls were jealous of her. After all, she was a new woman in Bruno's life. And Carina frowned in spite of herself, and she forced a fake smile before addressing the girls. "I brought snacks," said Carina, placing it on top of the coffee table. "Mom already brought us snacks," lied Olivia. "No, she didn't," said Becky before reaching for a pastelito. Olivia swatted Becky's hand before saying, "No, you already ate." "Honestly, Olivia, get over it already," said Becky. "I didn't forbid Bruno from calling home," said Carina, "and whatever problems you have with him, leave me out of it." "Wow, do you see that, Uncle? It didn't take much for your girlfriend to throw you under the bus," joked Becky. "So much for support," giggled Olivia. Bruno stood up and he walked past the clutter before taking Carina's hands, and the girls spotted when they saw Bruno going away with his girlfriend, and he found an empty spot in the dance area, and he proceeded to slow dance with Carina. Carina looked into Bruno's eyes, and he had the same focused look he used when playing chess. And Carina opened her mouth before closing it again. She didn't like it when her boyfriend got quiet and distant. Even though he was still dancing with her, his mind was a million miles away, and she was merely an instrument he used to isolate himself from others. If he was dancing with his girlfriend, he couldn't engage others in conversation. "Are you unhappy?" asked Carina, and she repeated the question twice. "Do I look unhappy?" asked Bruno, giving a warm smile. "And why do you stop playing with your nieces?" asked Carina. "I was bored," said Bruno. "I can only do an activity that bores me for so long." "Maybe you could have played chess with them," suggested Carina. "Carina, you only have to put up with them for 3 more days," said Bruno. "Bruno," said Carina, "I get why you stopped talking to your sister, but why do you have to go to your nieces as well?" "Carina, whatever Rebecca has said, she's exaggerating. Ever since her divorce, she has made it her business to meddle in my affairs," said Bruno before taking a step back, and he released Carina from the dancing embrace. "I have to go to the bathroom. With your permission." Bruno went into Carina's house to isolate himself from the world, and he locked the bathroom door, and with nothing better to do, he proceeded to do push-ups, and Carina didn't stay without a dance partner for so long. Her best friend came took her in his embrace, and they talked sweet nonsense while the world spun around them. King was 23 years of age. He had a plain face and a handsome body, and his most distinguishing feature were his icy gray eyes. At a certain point, Carina said, "Do you still have that worm singing?" "It took you long enough to ask for it," Carina said, King, knowing what his friend wanted. "It's not for Bruno. I trust him. My problem is his sister Rebecca. And Bruno told me that she's of the habit of hiring professional stalkers, detectives in layman's terms, and I need to know if one of her hired goons is after me, and her brows are already opening hostile to me. And it wouldn't surprise me if she's scheming against me," said Carina. Carina got the worm singing, aka blast the worm, for her friend, and now all she needed to do was trick Rebecca into opening the spyware. After rattling her brain, she sent Rebecca a zip file filled with all the photos she had taken of Bruno. Rebecca eyed with suspicion the zip file called Peace Offering, and since Rebecca wasn't opening the file, Carina went to talk to the woman. "The file I sent you has most of the photos I had taken of myself and Bruno," said Carina. "Most of the photos?" asked Rebecca, raising an eyebrow. "We have a few that are for our eyes only, and I doubt you will want to see your brothers," said Carina. "Say no more, please," said Rebecca, rubbing her brow. She had already gotten the hint. "I don't want you to see me as an enemy," said Carina, extending her hand in friendship. "I want the same thing that you want, Bruno's happiness." Rebecca, after hesitating, accepted Carina's hand, and then she said, "As long as he is truly happy with you, that will suffice for me." "He is happy, is he not?" "Yes," said Carina, "he is happy as long as we don't talk about Tanya or Natasha. And he has a bad habit of getting enamored with women who cheat on him. Or maybe it was too early in the relationship for fidelity to be part of the equation," said Oberon, who was eavesdropping. He was the other new face in Carina's social circle. "If I wanted your opinion, I would have asked for it," said Rebecca dryly. "I'm just saying that relationships are different now, and it isn't uncommon for a woman to have a main plate as well as a dozen side dishes. This doesn't mean that she doesn't like her boyfriend. Rather, she wants to analyze all of her options before truly committing to an individual," explained Oberon. "The whole getting to know a person, one person at a time, has gone out of fashion. Just because the world has gone mad doesn't mean that my brother must dance to that same tune," said Rebecca, raising her voice. And she proceeded to lecture Oberon on the benefits of a healthy monogamous relationship. "If that works so well, then pray do tell me, where is your better half?" asked Oberon, poking holes into Rebecca's argument. "I gotta check up on the girl," said Rebecca dryly. And this was an excuse to get away from the uncomfortable conversation. And she had done everything right, and how could everything have gone wrong? She dated the right man, she married him after a year, they had a blissful 8-year marriage that completely ended overnight, and her ex-husband Marcelo claimed to have fallen in love with his 18-year-old intern. Man, always confusing lust for love. And her one regret that she had married the man without a prenuptial contract. And from the safety of the treehouse, Rebecca observed Carina at a distance. And Carina wasn't the type to patiently wait for her man to pay her attention, and if he wasn't around, she would immediately go dance with another. And the way Carina was dancing with Oberon positively offended Rebecca's sensitivities. And how could Carina allow that raven-haired man to fill her up? "I was thinking, Carina, do you like the way I dance?" asked Oberon. "You are about average," said Carina before twirling, and she was dancing salsa with Oberon. "And your hip movements need some work." My hips, protested Oberon, visibly offended. "Listen, sister, hip movement is my specialty. You are the first woman to ever complain about how I use my hips." "Show me your stuff then," said Carina, taking a respectable distance. "And then it will be my turn to show you how it is done." Oberon accepted the challenge, wiggled his hip bone to the beat of Suavemente, and she studied his technique while walking circles around him. And when it came for her turn, her hips started gyrating left and right like a bumblebee, and Oberon had no other choice but to admit defeat, and he clapped enthusiastically before returning to dance with Carina. and she was so amused with all of us dancing that she completely forgot about Bruno's existence. And it eventually came time to say grace, and she called Bruno to inform him that it was time to cut the turkey. And Bruno finally left the bathroom, and he had stayed there for longer than he had anticipated. And he breathed a sigh of relief when he realized that nobody had noticed his absence. That's the end of chapter 1. Bye-bye. God bless.